Just to keep in mind that we are a company that's not a crypto company, nor are we a digital asset company. What Linqto does is provide opportunities for accredited investors to invest in pre-IPO companies. That includes various companies that you will find on our Linqto site, whether you go to the website or you download the app. You'll see what we have for accredited investors to take an opportunity in. We are identifying new companies all the time in various exciting fields, whether it's blockchain, whether it's companies such as Kraken or Marqeta. We're looking to identify companies that are emerging quickly within this environment that is, has an opportunity to go to a public offering in the near future. We can't tell when, we can't tell exactly for how much valuation, but these are the companies that we look for. So that's what Linqto does. Today, we're going to have an interesting topic in regards to crypto and gaming. I'd like to introduce the flow of this event today. I'll introduce John and Mike, who are both working with us here at Linqto and have been exploring this topic and have some experience and background on it. We'll leave a few minutes for Q&As close to 12:35 or 12:40, and then we'll end at 1 o'clock. So welcome, thank you all for joining us. It's lovely to see you all. Just as a reminder, we have these Linqto weekly lunch and learns. It's informational and educational. We hope that you can continue to join us. Just keep a lookout on the various sites, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. We'll announce these events and we'll announce the speakers and the topics. We already have the next two lined up. And also keep in mind that we're having a Global Investors Conference, December 8th and 9th, which we've got star-studded cast in. Register for that as well. We'd love to see you all there. It's over 2 days. We've got over 30 panelists, and we're looking forward to seeing you there. So without much more, I'm going to turn off my video and let John and Mike come onto the screen, introduce themselves, and then take it from there. Thank you all.
All right. Thanks, Karim.
Right. Thank you, Karim.
John, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, okay. So I'm John Murray. I'm a research director at Linqto. I have a background in research in artificial intelligence, software engineering, and human-machine interaction, in particular in video games. I conducted a bunch of studies of video games some years ago. My interest here is in understanding some of the economic side of the gaming industry, and we're looking to explore that in this conversation.
Thanks. And I'm Mike Delucchi. 30 plus years in industry of banking. So I had a lot of experience in community banks in various executive positions before coming over here to Linqto to enjoy the crazy world of investing in pre-IPOs and crypto and digital assets and blockchain, and it's been really an exciting ride. I will say that I have a ton of knowledge in gaming, but from a user perspective, from being a gamer. So not necessarily the crypto piece was a lot of research. Definitely understand, I think, the financial shifts that we've seen over the years in gaming. And that's what I'll talk a little bit about. And then I think John and I have some different companies that we've researched that are doing some interesting things. None of these things, obviously, are we making recommendations to invest in anything. We're just, these are purely educational exploration, and hopefully having a good conversation afterwards with some open dialogues about maybe what some of you folks know that's happening in the space that we weren't able to either know about or to find. With that, it's really an open discussion. John and I are going to kind of step all over each other as we go through this. I do have a deck just to kind of keep us moving forward with some structure, but feel free to jump in or ask any questions as we go. And with that, let me see if I can share my screen here. And oops, There we go. And hopefully, are you guys able to see the screen?
Yep, that's good.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I'll start with just a little bit of background. I'm taking from the assumption that you guys know what video games are, but maybe not kind of how the financial and revenue opportunities that have been in the gaming industry have progressed over the years. First of all, in 2020, it is expected that the gaming industry is going to earn $160 billion, which is a significant amount. And they've actually got it projected by the year 2025 that it's going to go to $300 billion. So definitely a huge growth market. There's one survey I saw had 2.5 billion users or gamers worldwide. So the market is huge. It's constantly growing with the invention of going off of consoles and doing games on apps in your mobile phone and virtual reality. It's only getting bigger. And so are some of the opportunities that I think are happening. One interesting note as I was doing some research, 45% of US gamers are women. So I think that was a really interesting stat, and having two daughters that have grown up as gamers with their dad, I think I can attest to that. So that was a great stat to see. So let's kind of jump into it. One of the things I thought was interesting, as I was doing some research, there's a huge synergy and overlap between the crypto enthusiasts and gamers. And so I think that's why you see a lot of interest happening in this space, especially over the last couple of years, is because the nature of gamers and gaming and the technical aspect, the virtual aspect, the developers that are in there and the companies that are in there are all already in the space of doing things virtually. There's been the idea of earning credits or coins or virtual type of money in games for years and years and years. So it's not a new concept. The concept is really, the actual conversion of that to US dollars, I think is the interesting part. So there's a huge overlap of that, I think. Sorry about that. Presentation skill number one is turn your ringer off on your phone. Sorry about that. So there's that huge crossover is there. I think to give you kind of a real quick overview and perspective of how the financial impact of gaming has changed, I think, this slide I think shows it pretty well, showing that, we came from the original arcade actually was put in place a few minutes away from John Murray at the Stanford University. The Galaxy game in 1971, that's that blue machine that you see in the upper left-hand corner there. That was put in one of the union buildings there and cost $20,000 to make at the time. It was, as we all know it, a glorified Pong machine that was there. Cost you 10 cents to play, or 3 games for 25 cents. So you could see the numbers. I thought that was kind of interesting. We all know, as it moved to in our homes with Atari and those type of things, the consoles really took off. And so the arcade was really, 25 cents. That's where the revenues were being made, was from people playing the games and dropping in their quarters, and that engaged. When it went to the home, it really became, the revenue model was the consoles themselves, and then the games. So you purchased the game, you dropped in the game, and you had to get the next game, and everybody had all the different games that were out there. That started to shift probably over the last 15 to 20 years, probably 15 years, where there started to be, you buy the game, and then you want additional maps, or you want a different season. So there was this subscription type revenue model, where they got you for the, anywhere from $50 to $100 for the video game. And then people were paying for updates or additional maps and different things like that nature. So that was the first kind of add-ons as we started to see. That led obviously to what they call microtransactions and in-game purchases, which is what we'll really talk about here in a few minutes. And those really were driven to add on to the gaming costs, but as we'll talk about in a minute, the game started to become free, and the revenue really started to shift to that model. And then these last two, these are kind of up and coming or happening right now, and where it might be going that we should kind of keep an eye on. The advertising, one of the interesting things, there's a game called NBA 2K. Obviously, it's an NBA game that you play, has got a lot of backlash because they started adding in advertising actual ads that you can't skip before you actually play your game. So you're getting ready to play an NBA game and it shows you an advertisement. The one right there is for the Oculus Quest, $299 that popped up for the NBA 2K, and you could not skip it. So it's got a lot of, you know, I paid $60 for this game, and now I'm also having to look at these advertising. The gaming community is kind of in an uproar about that type of revenue model. But and then there's the funny thing is that the Oculus Quest that's being advertised there, the virtual reality is going to open up a whole nother world. Not only because it's got Facebook behind it, but because you've got a whole nother way of interacting in a community in a virtual reality environment. So there's a lot of endless uses there too. So that's just to kind of give you kind of an overview there. John, anything you want to add on kind of the history of what we've talked about there?
Yeah, there's just a couple of thoughts came to mind actually. This issue about advertising in games actually goes back quite a long way. There was a whole move by companies like Sega and Nintendo, I think, to introduce advertising on billboards along the side of racing games. So the player is playing a game, driving a racing car of some sort, and there's advertising being put up, thrown up to them along the way. I don't know whether that was particularly lucrative or not from the game company's point of view. That was one thing. Another thing, of course, is the whole area of esports and sponsorships in that sort of space is a whole nother sort of stream of revenue for the game makers.
Great points. Great points. Yeah, I do remember doing some of those ones with the billboards on there for sure. At least it didn't make you stop and look at them like some of the things they're doing now, though. But yeah, you're right. That's a great point. One of the things that
I'm on a webinar, so I'll have to call you back. What's up? You good? Okay, love. Talk to you later.
Just unmute whoever's on. Mute if you're on unmute, please. Thank you.
There we go. Thanks, Karim. Okay, so one of the things that we just chatted about is the in-game shift. And for those of you who aren't gamers, in-game means you have a character and you can buy different outfits, you can buy different weapons, different actually dances. That's been a big one in one of the bigger games here that's called Fortnite. And the idea that it gives you no benefit in the game, but it gives you, your character looks different or you have some kind of status or something, has been huge. I mean, you could see the one statistic in the bottom right there, that $2.4 billion in 2018 for Fortnite in revenue. 1 billion of that was in in-game purchases. And so that is really significant. One of the things that I'll tell you about on this graphic I thought was interesting, they did a survey of 1,000 gamers, and almost 70% of them indicated that they have spent money on in-game purchases in Fortnite. So that's a huge amount of folks. Keep in mind, this game was given away free. So the game itself was free. They made money from making a battle pass and maps that I kind of chatted to you about, but also the big revenue piece was from these in-game purchases. And you could see the difference of the different items that people bought, but that the average person spent almost $85 in-game purchases is significant. And that's only grown, and that's really boosted the free-to-play, but the in-game purchase market within the video games. So it's been pretty significant. The other thing about Fortnite, I think, is that 37% of the folks that were in that survey had never done an in-game purchase before then. And there's actually, the way that Fortnite did it is very similar to crypto, where for every $1 US, you got 100 what they call V-Bucks, and then you could use those for the different purchases. So, there was deals on buying larger amounts of V-Bucks, but you could see the subscription and the in-game purchases were starting to get to that credit. The other thing I think that's interesting just from a business perspective is that they're in a lawsuit and have been in a lawsuit with Apple and Google because of the commissions that those two platform stores are asking for the sales from the in-game purchases. So it was something like $300 million that Apple and Google made from in-game purchase commissions. And so that's been a big fight in the business sector as well. John, you know,
Yeah.
I wanted to have John has some really good information that we were talking about this one. So I'll pass this off to John to chat about.
Yeah, this EVE Online has been around for quite some time. It makes for an interesting ecosystem, because it's basically a game where you travel through space, conduct battles, build, do space mining, build spacecraft, and it's a very sort of open to doing anything type of environment. There are not many rules, so there's all sorts of scams and piracy, and all of these sort of things are allowed within the game. What's intriguing about it in some ways is that it allows the game makers, the company that runs it, they allow out of game transactions. So a lot of the other multiplayer games, they want to keep control of the economy and try to maintain everything within the game. But with the EVE Online, there's entire markets that are conducted outside the game among the players. It's an interesting study for economists, for example, to study the behaviors, the way people behave within the environment. There are it's been going for quite some time, but there are lots of other games, of course, that have in-game currencies. Second Life was one of another sort of free to do whatever you want type of activity within the game. They introduced their own currency, the Linden dollar, and it varied in exchange with real currency. And we're seeing some of that sort of in-game currencies becoming more popular with more recently. We got some notes about it, which we can talk about a little bit later.
Great, thanks, John. Yeah, I think that what John, and you know, while we're talking about all these different games and where they've come to, you can see that it's been building this idea of in-game trading, currency, credits, and that's really where that in crypto really has fit. I think the thing that's, you know, it's been the start where you're earning different things so you can buy things in the game. The thing that hasn't really happened yet, and where I think there's opportunity for, and where some of these players are starting to come in, is that cross-platform, cross-game, and being able to cash out or to convert it into cash. And so that it's not just a game or a developer or a console that's earning these credits like Microsoft points, but that there are cross consoles and that you can actually take those out at some point. And so that's where there's a big push for. I think the other things, and John touched a little bit on some of this about fraud and different things like that. There's a lot of other ideas that have been floating through the use of crypto and blockchain, and for that matter, obviously esports has been huge. That's a whole nother almost industry in itself, where a lot of their revenue comes from apparel and sponsorship and prize pools and all of that. So, you know, the actual, I just looked it up, it was kind of funny. The highest earning esports player is out of Denmark named Johan Sundstein, and he almost made $7 million from playing video games and esports. So if you think that this is a small market, when a player of the game, not a developer, not the owner of the game, this is a player of the game made $7 million, it's a big opportunity out there. The other thing in that place is those prize pools, keeping and there's actually a huge betting world on this too, which we all know, you know, crypto is very large in the gaming itself industry, and so the betting piece of this is in there for a lot of interest. The other thing is that, you know, the idea of the consoles themselves have been based a lot on blockchain to begin with. The whole idea of of having a gaming system and the nodes that connect are based on the technology and the thought press of a blockchain. So again, that's why that this fit and the overlap of between, you know, blockchain, crypto, and gamers is so well stated. There's a lot happening now for copyright infringement and for the privacy of code that's all blockchain related. And then, you know, there's gamers across the world. I mean, you could search on some of the things that are happening in China and things like that on the gaming frontier. And being able to move transactions of some kind of value across border without, of course, going through the normal banking systems and fees and that are associated with that. There's a lot of focus there and opportunity there, I would think. And so that's really, so all these players are really trying to break in. You know, you see a lot of startups and a lot of folks that are out there are in various stages of success. I put a few here. We'll talk about a few others, but everyone's trying to get with the developers like Ubisoft and Blizzard and those folks to try to be the crypto for gaming. And so it'll be interesting to see how that's out. My personal thought on that is that, you know, when you got powerhouses like Nintendo and PlayStation and even Blizzard and Ubisoft, the developers, I would sense that they're going to try to be a big player in that market rather than having some of these smaller cryptos. But there's a lot of movement on some of these fronts. And you know, any thoughts there, John, that you'd like to add?
It's interesting. One of the gaming resource that has recently that came to my attention is Razer, in a company based in Hong Kong. They've recently deployed a Visa card, and they have applied for a banking license in Singapore, as part of the idea being that you can use their banking resources to make purchases and do exchanges between the real world and the online, O2O, as they say, online, between online and offline. It being smoothing that path is going to be key for a lot of people, a lot of these players.
Right. I think one of the things that I think John and I wanted to kind of chat about from this point forward is a few of the things like that one that we're seeing out in the market. I'm going to give this one a try. There's this one called the Engine Coin. And I'm going to see if you guys are going to have to let me know if you actually can hear this and if it works. I'm going to try to share this interesting video just for a moment, but it talks about how they're doing some really interesting things on a huge community that they've got. It's more along the lines of social currency, but let me see if this will play. If not, I will definitely include it for, okay. I don't know if this is going to work, but we'll give it a try. Actually, you know what? I don't think I'm just going to include that in our resources, but I'll tell you a little bit what makes that different. They're making a coin and a credit for not only for the gamers, but for the developers, so that as they start developing, they're using their coin within it. And so it's a pretty interesting play. They're also doing it where similar to the whole mining of Bitcoin and things like that, you could actually, it has a wallet, you buy items and it stays in your wallet from game to game or developer to developer, and you can melt those down and turn those back into cash. And so that's the biggest difference, I thought, and I'll include this with the slide deck that we put up because I have some resources at the end. But this particular company has a huge worldwide footprint. They're going after the developers before they make the game. And then they actually have some very unique cashing out type concepts that I thought was pretty interesting.
This actually reminds me of another company, Roblox, which is they've just recently confidentially filed for an IPO with the SEC. Roblox is a a sort of an advanced version of Minecraft where players could build and construct entities and structures within the game, which they then can buy and sell. The main attraction at the moment is the ability to build games within the game. So players will construct a game and then deploy it to the other players within Roblox to play. There's all sorts of opportunities for commerce in this sort of space.
No, I think that's a great point. The other thing kind of on this and some of the other ones I think we're going to talk about, that this particular, the engine coin, is built on the ERC20 framework of Ethereum. And so when you look at, you know, what the technology that they're using behind them, they're using industry leaders in that. And there's a few others that are really on the forefront of that too. So I thought that was kind of interesting that they were using that framework on it and using it to try to distribute their virtual goods. Let's see. This is a list, and we're going to provide the deck. We'll have it on YouTube as well. There's a few of these that I wanted to chat with that I thought were on the more interesting side of what's going on. And actually, I'm going to share you guys a screen of what's happening in the space here real quick, just because I thought it was interesting from a business standpoint. Here we go. Excuse me for one sec, trying to move this over. There we go. Hopefully you guys can all see that. You could see some of these players and the market caps that they've currently got. There's a few that are very specific in the world of the esports. The one on Engine Coin, obviously we just kind of chatted about that. The Decentraland is one where you could buy virtual property, which is very interesting, but it's getting a lot of interest. That the WAX and the HXRO are two of the ones that I think have the most interest from a lot of people right now. But you could see, and again, I have this this link in our reference page that I'll provide you. There's a lot happening in this. You could see how many of them also are being built on the blockchain and Tron, Ethereum and Tron. You can see the values that they're going at. So we'll provide this. I thought it was an interesting deck of how many things in the top were out there. I think there's a couple that John would like to discuss as well. Let me go back to our deck here. And so this was the one, John.
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one that I mentioned. The Razor FinTech, the Razor company has established a separate FinTech operation, and has recently, as I say, recently filed for banking license in Singapore.
Great, and the next one that we had here, wrapping it up. There we go. And this was your Roblox that you were talking about with the IPO.
Yeah, that's right. It's interesting. It's in competition, as they note right there on the screen. It's in competition with Unity, which has already been is well known as a development platform for, and is used by numerous game companies.
Right. Excellent.
So this is an interesting sets of insights that you can get from studying gaming behavior. What I was getting at here, in fact, is that because you've got the players are all networked together. They're all playing. The data about their activities and behaviors is shared through the servers from between the players. What that does is it enables it enables the game companies or other researchers to examine the behaviors of the players and understand more about them. So it's a really very, very rich area for analytics and behavioral modeling. These are a series of studies here that I was involved with over a number of years ago, and I can just run down through some of them. We examined the personality traits that advertisers use. We gathered that information about players, and we examined how that was related to the people's type of behaviors online. Another one was we observed the way people move through the gaming environment. They as they transfer from one part of the game to another, the speed that they move at, the types of actions they take within the game. All of that helps to identify the demographics of the individual. People, males versus females, move differently. Older people versus younger people. There's stuff about educational background. Some of the kids from a less well-off background behave differently within games than those who have had more education opportunities. There's one on the left-hand side there that one study that some of my colleagues undertook. Couples who slay together stay together. They examined the relationship between how players who were romantically involved, when they played together within games, there was a tendency for them to last as couples for longer. Spatial orientation, learning and memory is a big area. And on the right-hand side there, virtual economic experiments. This is there's a whole lot of data available on, as we were talking about earlier, on the extent to which people are willing to the risks that they are willing to take, the type of investments that they will make in within the game, the type of artifacts that they will purchase. And it's a very, very rich area, and there's lots of opportunity for game companies to draw upon this, especially when you have the transactional and currency related data as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think one of the two of the others that I'll note back on our slide here, I think the GT coin, we talked about, you saw that on an earlier slide as well. I thought that one was interesting. It's one of the ones that's on the Ethereum platform, but it's for game testers. So it's this concept of people testing either games or portions of the games and getting some kind of currency for doing so that they can then go ahead and use when the game comes out or between themselves. I think it's $1.10 USD, the GT coin. So these are all, starting to, they also use it for earn prizes and rewards and things like that. So that's one. The other one there is called game credits. That's another one that's pretty high on, it's touting itself. It wants to be the universal crypto for all of video games. So it says that quite a few times throughout its website. And whenever you see them, they're going to be it. They've partnered with a company called Unity Technologies that has 770 million titles. So they've partnered with a big player. Obviously, it's not a Sony or a Nintendo or someone like that, but they are looking at doing a developer system as well, and for faster payouts. So the way that these systems are actually developed and all that, cross-border, you have programmers and all that, they're looking at the development nature of video games as well and how they can speed the payments up, do it cheaper and across borders without involving, the ACH and wire rails and things of that nature. They're also, one of their interesting things is that it's a peer-to-peer network with an open source. So that was a very unique piece there. They did one, you'll see one there called Mobile Go. Now that is their actual coin for the esports area. So they actually, Game Credits created Mobile Go, And that's really used to make sure that the prize money and all that doesn't have fraud in it. And so it's kind of the standard right now in some of the esports for the prizes and paying those out. So those, I think the last one I wanted to really chat about, and then, you know, any others that John has, is the last one on the list here, which is Atari. And they made some pretty big news over the last few weeks. You know, Atari, for those of you who don't know it other than the console that first came out, you know, went bankrupt, had some an interesting history of amazing games and things. They've announced that they're coming out with a new console in November, the first in 20 years. Price point's a little high for coming into the market, so interesting to see how that is engaged. You do pre-orders and all that. They just announced that they're going to be doing some video game themed hotels. The ones they've got, you can see a picture of one of those up in the upper right-hand corner there. That is supposed to be in Vegas and in Arizona to start with. So they announced 2 locations, but they're doing this whole game themed hotel line. And then the Atari token, that comes out tomorrow. I think we're on the 28th. Yeah, comes out tomorrow on Bitcoin. And so that, you know, the idea there is pretty interesting. They're looking to have that as to purchase game content, but they want that Atari token to be, you know, an industry standard. They're going to offer, I think, $1 million in Atari tokens. And I think it's like 25 cents a token or something like that. Obviously trying to go with the old school 25-cent quarter concept there. But they really plan on being that industry standard. And then, as you can see there, there's been reports that they're working on a gaming stable coin too. That's in the works. It's not out yet. So that'll be, you know, that'll be interesting. You know, it's a company that's redesigned itself, you know, 20 staff members. And so they're really kind of making the news over the last 30 days, and we'll see how that goes tomorrow with the sale on Bitcoin. So kind of timely. But that's what I want to, you know, they're talking about it being used in casino games, in-game purchases and all that. So they have some pretty, their eyes set. They've got a good name for it. So it'll be interesting to see how the market takes it. John, any other?
No, yeah, I've got all sorts of other thoughts, but I think perhaps we should, if anybody is interested in asking specific questions, I think we'd be happy to bring people into the conversation.
Or this is great, Mike, John. This has been a fascinating event. I mean, I must say, even though we've spoken a little bit about it, it's amazing the content and the psychology and the learning and the back end infrastructure that's going on in this whole industry. I could take an hour of your time just asking questions, but I don't want to do that. So I'll start off with 1 or 2. And then hopefully other people can join in. Otherwise, I'll take up all the time, just letting you guys know. What was really interesting, one of the startups that we looked at a little while ago in the investment community was how gaming is a predictor of mental and physical health. So not necessarily related to coins as such, but mental and physical health, and how they could predict the onset of Alzheimer's or Parkinson's and various other ailments when folks were playing certain games, which was pretty amazing. What's really fascinating to us, and to me, I think in particular, is during these days where coins and blockchain has created the ability for coins to exist in terms of security, transferability, and value, the gaming industry is probably going to reap a lot of benefit from this. And, you know, funnily enough, you start to look at the blockchain environment and the gaming environment. So the question also lies around, should we be investing in the technology, the blockchain technology, or should we be investing in games or doing a portion of investments in each sector? The other question is how has the unfortunate incident of COVID globally affected or is affecting the movement of gaming industry? Is that good? What do you see happening there in particular?
So that's a very interesting point that you make there, Karim. And we have thus far. We've mostly been talking about the actual games, and as entertainment, so to speak. But there's a couple of things. One is part of it has to do with the infrastructure, and this is kind of parallel to the blockchain issue, that the tools that are used to develop numerous games, we've mentioned them a little earlier, Unity and Unreal Engine, those tool sets are used for a variety of other sorts of game applications, such as educational games or training games, training environments, to enable people to qualify for all sorts of trades, and the tools themselves, the development tools, by building into those tools the capability to do transactions, which the developers have done, this enables a whole lot of other sorts of business opportunities to be deployed. It's kind of similar to building the TCP/IP infrastructure upon which the internet is built. We see the same sort of thing happening in the game stroke educational tools stroke virtual reality environments.
John, and I think the other thing is that to your other point, Karim, about what COVID has kind of done to the gaming community. Obviously, there's been more people at home, so the gamers have played a lot more. I think one of the interesting things that I saw is there's this whole thing of watching people play video games, which was new to me from when I was a kid. You played the video games, but Twitch is huge, and it's make people tremendously popular. But if you just look at the Twitch numbers for the first quarter of this year, it went up 200 million hours in the quarter for watching other people play video games. So that was if that's just a thing of people watching, you can imagine what the numbers have done over the last 10 months during COVID, with a lot of folks at home, and the boss is not watching when you take your break.
So who else has questions out there? Looks like Julian's been talking a little bit on the chat screen. William has been talking a little bit about the stuff in the chat screen. So if you're not on the chat screen, take a look. Cheryl's been giving us, Sarah Cheryl brought up a good idea about NFTs, the non-fungible tokens. Yeah. That's something we can talk about. If you sort of give us an overview of what that means. I think it was something like that Kitty token or something that generated a bunch of cash, wasn't it? Or isn't it? NFTs? Mike? John?
I'm not quite sure on that one, Karim, but it sounds like we've got a few folks that are very knowledgeable in the NFT in the audience.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, I mean, this is William.
William.
So I've got about 11 years in the gaming industry, worked with Epic Games, launched the original Fortnite esports gaming. So I'm working with companies like ZeniMax, who was just acquired by Microsoft. And I've got two different interesting companies that I advise for, and I welcome you guys to check those out. I posted some links in there to the website, also a Vimeo, to the NFT-based company. Gear is basically connects brands and games, and then ties the knot through a smart contract platform on Hyperledger. That's the high level, and anyone's welcome to contact me if you want to hear more or see a demo. And then also BlueLev is a middle layer platform that enables us to distribute those NFTs or digital currencies or anything for that matter on top of a streaming platform, any streaming platform. So what we figured out at BlueLev is that it's not just about the in-game purchasing, it's about the additional fingers and distribution that goes through people watching the games. So where we can distribute NFTs through in-game, we can distribute those same NFTs through the video channels. Sorry, guys, my daughter's out here.
There you go.
The star of the show.
I'm gonna have to jump off, but anyone feel free to contact me if you want to hear more, or go on the websites, check it out. I'd love to
Hey,
know in the comments.
so as you jump off quickly, William, thank you for that input. But some of the things that we're always looking for at Linqto is companies that are on the cusp or on the track to become multi-billion-dollar companies that would probably have liquidity events or an IPO. We can do this later, but at a certain point, chat with us and give us some indications of what kind of companies we should be looking at to bring onto the Linqto platform for people to take a look at if they wanted to buy some.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, definitely. Love to speak with you guys further. I've got to jump. I got to go pick up kids.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, William.
Guys,
Thank
well
you.
put together, and I enjoyed it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Any other questions out there? It looks like our audience is smarter than us, which was great, which is what we want.
I knew that would be the case.
Yeah.
Like I said, I play it. I don't buy it.
All right. So on that vein, what we're having, obviously, the next Lunch and Learn on November 4th is all about decentralized, centralized, blockchain, and all that complicated minutiae stuff that goes on in blockchain decentralization or centralized finance. So if anyone in the audience knows anyone who'd like to be a guest or provide some content or join us on that would be great. The one on November 11th is about neobanks and fintech. Again, anyone has industry experience in that would want to join, provide contact, be a guest on the show. I mean, these are meant to be educational, informative, and fun. So please reach out and let us know. Anyways, before we end, are there any more questions out there? Any suggestions? Don't be shy. It's okay. I can see Shelly's out here. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about the blockchain and gaming or not.
Aren't you the smart ass?
Yeah. Go ahead, Shelly. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Kurt. No, I'm an interested investor. I don't have any expertise in blockchain or gaming, but so.
Good. Did you find it interesting today and to join us and learn what we also too learned? Yes.
No, this is fantastic. I didn't think I could find a good. This is good. It's a really good platform and great guests and talkers and attendees.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to ask another question unless someone else has one.
There was one thought that came to my mind along the way here is it goes back to the understanding the behavior of the players and analyzing the data. Gaming companies can be it can be very lucrative to a games company to analyze their data, their players' data, from the point of view of understanding who are the leaders and who are the followers. When players are playing together as a group, as a guild, going after some quest or fighting some pirates or whatever, the ones who are in charge, the ones who are the leaders, those are the players that are going to influence the other ones who are joining them. And if you don't keep those leaders happy as a game developer, if you don't keep those leaders happy, it's very easy for the leaders to say, we're fed up with this game, let's all go somewhere else and play some other game. It's an interesting sort of a group phenomenon that gamers, game companies can take advantage of.
Yeah, I've got a group of folks that I've been playing with for 15 years that are spread across not just the country but the world, and some of us have gotten together in person and all that. But to your point, John, you go from what's the next game that we're all going to go to, and there's definitely I'm sure there's a couple that think that they're the leaders in there, but it's more of a group think. But it's you play they become good friends, and that community aspect of this, I think, can drive the economies of it as well.
Yeah.
So the other point I wanted to, so gaming today is engaged with, I don't know, this is a recent report, but I think it may be understated. Gaming today has 2.5 billion people playing games, right? the gaming industry, like you said, is about 160 billion total investment so far in gaming companies. I don't know, $500 million. So it seems to me a couple of different trends here, given that the peer-to-peer, the ease of transaction using crypto and coins, the peer-to-peer network. I mean, all of these things that are convalescing today or combining, coming together at this time would imply that this business model is ripe for a change or ripe for a large influx of investments. Have you read anything like that, or can you get some feedback on that?
I don't know, Mike, do you have?
As I mentioned, these are legit investments that are on all of the crypto sites have a gaming section now. As I was doing some of the research, they're all of the ones that are putting out there for crypto companies have a section on gaming now that says, here's the ones to buy or the ones to watch. So that list that I had showed you earlier, Karim, that was some of the bigger players that have had successful rounds and raises as of nature. How much total has come into that market, I don't know, but I do think it's ripe for investments, and I do think there will be a Mario coin that comes out on top at some point. I think it's just the nature of it on what we've talked about over the last hour of all the use cases, the fit, and the more acceptance level than just someone using crypto on a day-to-day basis at the store. They're used to be having these virtual credits, whether it's US dollars and now I can take it out. I think there's an adoption, easier pathway for the gaming area as well to embrace crypto and the idea of crypto.
So Joe, I want to pick on Joe here for a second. Yeah. Joe, are you okay with that?
Sure.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, I can't promise you I know the answer.
So Joe is involved with Linqto and helps us identify companies that our investors want to buy a piece of pre-IPO. Joe, are you at all looking at this market or either in the blockchain environment or the gaming companies themselves that we've got feedback from our customers who say, hey, take a look at this or what's going on? Do you have some feedback and insight into that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I absolutely, we share, Mike's view that this is a large and growing segment of the tech sector and one that can't be ignored, right? Because it's going to become ever bigger. So, and the interesting thing about the space is that it's early enough in development that there are a significant number of companies that have scaled in terms of users and revenue, but are still private and therefore play to the kind of opportunity that Linqto provides in terms of giving our customers who are accredited investors the ability to invest in those companies. One example, which is on our target list, would be Epic. Mike mentioned that he loves playing Fortnite with his daughters. That's a company that has been around for quite a spell. It's raised close to $1.5 billion over multiple rounds of venture and private equity. The last round valued it at over $15 billion. Think about that. Wow. It's still private. So we're going to try to get some shares of Epic and make them available for investment. And those of you that are watching today that are avid gamers and also investing in private company shares, hopefully we'll be able to do that and have you participate.
Wonderful, thank you.
A quick question.
Yes, of course, Tony.
All right, great. Joe, I wonder if you can talk a little bit about the selection of these particular gaming companies out there. When Linqto are doing the selections process, are they going to select only the ones that are issuing their own tokens, or it doesn't matter at this point?
No, we're looking at fundamental equity value and long-term appreciation of that equity value. Whether they have a business model that's based on tokens or no is not as important.
Okay, thank you for that. And
So, right, no, Joe, it's based on the fundamental values of the company that's doing whatever they do, right? Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. That's not to say that these companies, as they develop, won't begin to introduce, you know, NFTs and other types of crypto product into their overall scheme, right? But that's a decision they make. It's not something that is necessary in terms of our investment thesis.
Joe, I was going to say quickly that as an investor, I would be much interested in their private equities as opposed to their token, as there are a lot of tokens out there, and the more you invest them in, the more I think it becomes kind of confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we can focus on the companies and learn about what they're doing, and you guys can provide that, you know, that opportunity on the other side. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And the great thing about this space is that honestly, as an investor, you also have the ability as a gamer to road test the products of these companies, right? And form an opinion as to their viability, their attractiveness, you know, how many people are going to end up playing these games and spending money in game on them. And that's wonderful, because I can think of a whole bunch of different kinds of tech companies where their product are, you know, much more difficult to kind of test that way at the level of the individual, right? So.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Tony. Thank you all. We're at that time. I appreciate your attendance, your questions, your participation. We look forward to seeing you next week. Virginia, can you share the screen? Thank you. Of what we're talking about next week. Register for this, share with your friends. If there are folks in your network that are subject matter experts, or there are other topics that you'd like for us to host on the Linqto Lunch and Learn weekly event, let us know. Drop us an email, make a comment on our LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, connect with us, and let's keep this going. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you.